Hey, welcome back to the Slay the Spire 2 at home video series where we try to make a homemade version of Slay the Spire 2, one tiny step at a time just for fun. So while I was looking into how setup strike works, right, I noticed that in Slay the Spire 2, you can, so not only can you mouse over, either the player, picture or the enemy to show like all the status tooltips, right? That is either on the player or the enemy. You can also mouse over the individual status icons, right? Like so, just one to just show the status tooltips for that individual thing. I mean, in Slay the Spire, like it also shows the linked things like for the keywords like strength and then like the card. But we're not worried about that, right? But for example, like if you can mouse over just the strength icon, right, as opposed to the player, which shows all the status tooltips, right? You do that for you can do that for the enemy also, right? So the current state of where we're at here in our project is that you can only do the status tooltips for the enemy, not the player, right? And there is no functionality to do the status tooltip for just like one individual status icon, right? So before we do setup strike, right, we probably want to address that. Well, at least for the individual status icon, just for the enemy, right? Like maybe we don't need to worry about the rest of the stuff. We can do that if we have time, right, at the end of this episode. But yeah, why don't we start taking care of that, right? So that So one thing, well, we have our status, icon thing, right? And so you have the enemy, it's got the status bar, right? Like so right now our status, icon is not doing that functionality. So yeah, we need to add it. So when I checked all the mouse filters, right? So this one's that ignore for the stacks like text, for the duration text, it's also ignore. And here for the icon, we have it at a pass propagate up for some reason. So we probably don't need that. Just change that to ignore, right? So our status control, it extends control, right? So we'll just make the root node the thing that triggers the mouse thing, right? And then we need to propagate the signal up to the whole enemy or the player it's attached to, in order to show the status tooltip. Okay, so the first thing we want to do, I guess, is we connect. So when the status gets instantiated, right, it gets added to the status bar, right, which is in our thing here, and then we add that here, right, and then we connect whatever relevant signal. So here, when we connect, when we add the new status, we need to do something to kind of connect to that, right? So why don't we? Let's see, how do we want to do this? Yeah, I guess we do like this. Like so new status UI dot mouse entered, right? Dot connect. And then new status UI dot mouse exited dot connect. Yeah, this sort of thing, right? And then when we, let's see, so we want to bubble up the signals, right? So here we need to have local signals, right? That let's see, signal status UI mouse entered, and then this will be status UI, and then we have a signal for mouse exited that we bubble up, right? Like that. Let's see. Am I being consistent in where I put the signals at the start of a script? Let me see. How do I'm putting it at the top before the export variables. Is that? Yeah, I have no idea what the convention is. Why don't we do that just to be consistent, though? Okay. Hold on. Let me close this. Yeah. So let's put this at the top. Oh, and I've already got signals up here too. Okay. So yeah. Why don't we just? Let's do this. Okay. So we'll do that, right? And then so we'll need to connect those to new functions which just basically emit the signal from the status handler, right? So that's here, the status bar, and then that'll be something that's connected to, the thing that, we're doing here. for the enemy or the player, right? That to show the status tooltip. So I guess we can, yeah, let's make new functions for that. On SUI mouse entered, right? Dot bind, then so this will be which status your mouse entered or exited, I guess, right? Something like that. And then we'll have the same thing here, like that. And then we need to declare those functions down here, right? So on status UI mouse entered UI. Well, we don't need this. Do we need this? Yeah, maybe we do. Okay, that's fine. Okay. And then we'll have the same thing for our mouse exited, right? Yeah. And then here we emit these signals that we just created to bubble up to the the parent node, right, which is the enemy or the player. Like that, just bubbling up the signal, and then like that, right? So yeah, we connected the signals programmatically, right? Like just, yeah, so we're not going to do the thing where we try to double click in the signals tab. I don't know. Because, yeah, we don't have the individual status at design time that's added at runtime, right? So yeah, we'll do it this way. Okay, so here we've got the signals bubbling up. So in the scene for enemy, right? Because right now we don't actually have the status tooltip for the player implemented yet. So we're just starting with enemy first. So here we connect these signals that were bubbling up, right, that we just created in the enemy script, right, like that at the bottom, and then we'll do the same thing for the exited, and so these will bubble up, right? So we need a modified version of the thing we do for the regular tooltips when we're just showing all the tooltips, right? And we also need to make sure that we're taking care of, like, well, we don't know, well, at least I don't know, maybe other people do. So I'm not sure if Godot guarantees if, because you've got two status icons next to each other. So I'm not sure if, when you move your mouse from one to the other, if you're sure, if we know if the exited for the one that you're leaving is fired first or the entered for the one that you're entering is fired first, right? So yeah, I'm not sure. So we want to make sure that it works, regardless of the order, right? So just put some checks, I guess, here. So we'll just make some, let's see, for our last status UI hovered, I don't know. Start as null, right? And then is enemy hovered bool equals false. Okay, so something like this, right? And then yeah, so we'll modify the logic that we're currently using to show the status tooltips, right? For when you hover the whole enemy, right? For individual status icons. So what is this tooltips disabled thing? That's okay. So that's whether or not you're allowed to show the tooltips, so you're not dragging a card. Okay, so yeah, that's fine. We can leave that in there. So here when we enter, right? So okay, so we're not doing this. We're not showing the status for all. We're not showing the status tooltip for all the status, right? So let's see. So this just clears the previous tooltips that we had. Let me get rid of some of these comments. Okay, we're not doing this, right? We're just going to have one new status, like for the one that's passed in here. So we don't need to do this, right? We just, yeah, we have this sort of thing. Like that. Wait, was that? Oh, well, maybe I should leave this thing in here. Okay, so something like this. And then here we move that over, right? Status UI. And then yeah, we do this. So there's just one, right? Just for the one that's hovered, not for every status that the enemy has. Let me get rid of this stuff. Okay, so then we tooltip height. Okay, so this is calculating the height of the TooltipBox container. Right? So basically, we have a VBox container that can contain multiple status. Okay, so we need to we're calculating that. So I mean, there's only going to be one, right? So we don't need this loop here, right? Equals like something like this. Yeah, like that, I guess. Yeah, that should be fine, right? And then so there's not going to be all status, it's just going to be the one, right? So we don't need this. So we need to actually size the container. Then this will be, well, this. So this is accounting for the space between the different tooltips, right? We don't need this. Yeah, hold on. I forgot. I accidentally took out the type there. That should be float. Okay, let me put that there back. Okay, so we have that. Get rid of this. Okay, so this is doing positioning based on how big the enemy where it is, right? We can leave that stuff in there. Get rid of some of these comments. So this is making sure the tooltip box doesn't go off the screen. And then so yeah, we definitely need to do this because this is to account for, well, if you're hovering over an enemy, right? It might not have any statuses, right? So yeah. But when it has a status and you're hovered over it, it's definitely going to have a status. Okay, so we do that. And then, okay, so we set the check that we do here, right? So when you hover a tooltip, hover a status icon, we set that equal to this. So we just save that reference, right? And then when the mouse leaves the status icon, so we want to make sure that, okay, so if status UI hovered equals status UI, right? So this is to make sure that, well, this thing, because this thing could have fired first, right? For the status you're now hovering over instead of the status you're leaving, right? So like this is like in case your mouse leaves one status icon and enters another, and the mouse entered for the one you entered fires before the mouse exited of the one you left, right? So yeah, just that's why that conditional is there. So we do that, and then so we stop the timer. Wait, no, wait. What are we doing with this timer? Oh yeah, that we start the timer, right? Because that's when we need to. Well, we might want to stop showing the status tooltip after a certain amount of time. Right now, I've got it set to like well, 0.1 seconds, right? Okay. So that'll take care of that, right? And then for the existing status tooltip functionality, when you hover over the whole enemy, we also need to kind of have the same kind of checks, right? So here we're saying if enemy hovered equals true, when you hover the whole enemy right here, right? It's true. And then when you leave, so no, so when you leave, this will turn back to false, right? And then we want to make sure that we only stop showing the tooltip if you're not hovering something else, which is one of the status icons, right? So we say if status hovered. So if this is null, so if not status hovered, we start the timer there, right? Something like that. Yeah, and then, okay, so here, yeah, that should work, I think. And then we also need to check here, and so we need to account for the case when we're hovering. When we started hovering the whole enemy after hovering an individual status icon, right? So here, so we only want to start the timer if we're not hovering the whole enemy. Not, yeah, something like that. Okay, and then, so we only want to, yeah, that should, wait, do we need to do anything here to account for if we're doing is enemy hovered? So if we went from hovering the whole enemy to hovering an individual status tooltip, right? And then this thing fired first, then, so this will replace the tooltips, and then, yeah, that should be fine, right? And if this fires first, then we start the timer, but then we'll stop the timer. Oh yeah, okay, so this should work, right? And then, what's this? This is just the stuff that we are, okay. So we need to test this. We'll just add some uppercuts, right, into our starting deck when we're testing this functionality, so we can apply some statuses to the enemy and then test this out, right? Yeah, I need to find our cheating block. All right, so here, so right now we don't have any cheating in there, right? So we need to, okay, so we'll just add like a uppercut. Uncommon uppercut, yeah. Then we'll duplicate the uppercut a few times just to make sure we have, yeah, we can consistently test this thing, right? So let's see if this works. Hopefully nothing went wrong, right? So this signal should be hooked up in theory, right? Then last status, and then we have this. I mean, we can also use this local variable. It probably doesn't matter, right? When we exited, we start the time. Okay, so yeah, hopefully this works. Let's see. All right, so now we'll just, well, we just don't, yeah, let's just test it on any random enemy, and then, okay, we uppercut, we've got our cheating uppercuts that we added, right? Okay, so I do this. Okay, so this is the whole enemy, right? The status tooltips. This is kind of the Slay the Spire 1 style where they showed the icon also next to the title, right? They don't do that in, oh no, they do that in Slay the Spire 2. Okay, it's still the same way, right? Okay. Oh yeah, and they've also got the red background for debugs. We're not worried about that for now. So here, does this work? Uh-oh, that's not right, right? So something's not working there. So the tooltip box didn't get sized correctly, right? That's kind of the problem there. And then, yeah, we've got some funny business going on. Okay, so what's going on? Let's go back to here. So it works fine. Or no, it's not working. Okay, so no, we need to add a status first, right? So it works fine when we just hover the enemy, and the things start breaking when we hover the individual status tooltip, right? Something goes wrong. Maybe I should check our hitboxes too to make sure that... Okay, so it's definitely wrong, the wrong size when we hover the just an individual status, right? So how do we do this before? So tooltip height plus equal. So we start at 0, right? So instead of... So then we plus node size dot y. Node. So did we make sure to add? Yeah, we did, right? Structure. And then we so this should be total tooltip height, right? Yeah. Okay, so why didn't this work? Why did this not work? Did we mess up somewhere? Okay, so first we deleted the previous tooltips, and then we did wait for the tooltips to exit the scene tree. Right? We set the size to 0, and then we add the child. We set... Okay, so this should... Node.size TooltipBox container. So why is this different when we only have one? Oh, did we mess up this total tooltip height? Goes 0. So before we were setting it to 0, and then we... Child. So something's going wrong when we're doing this new one, right? Handler. Get children. Okay, so before we were looping through all the status UI, we were creating a new tooltip box for each of them. We were setting the title and description. We were adding it, yeah, so now we're only doing it for one. So what's getting messed up? Instantiate. Did we not set the size to 0? No, we did, right? Child. Tooltip. Tooltip boxes equals child count. So we're not doing that, right? We're just... Total tooltips. Huh. Interesting. Here, then we're await. So we have TooltipBox. Maybe we should put a breakpoint in here just to see what kind of numbers we're getting. All right, let's do this. We just get a random. Okay, so let's uppercut this thing. Let's set check this thing. Okay, so new tooltip boxes. So okay, so the status. We should probably check what this is exactly, right? So this is the status.getTooltip description. Okay. So we're adding it to new tooltip box.size. So the size is messed up here, right? So it's way too big. Way too big. So then the size gets set to that way too big size. So is this process frame supposed to fix that? So now here, the tooltip box container. Oh, the size is way too, the position is set a little bit. Is that supposed to be like that? Oh no, because the size got messed up, the position got messed up, right? Is that? So why doesn't it get messed up when we do it this way? Is it just a timing thing because we're adding more and then it just, we're slowing things down or something? So maybe this logic isn't completely baked. Huh. So now we've got the tooltip box just. Oh, now I'm messing myself up with breakpoints, right? Why is this getting? So why don't I compare the values to when I do this, right? So if I put this here, what's going on here? So here, so this is for the strength, right? So I add the thing. So I add two status things, right? And then does that just slow down the timing enough that the size is kind of set correctly by then? No, this is 1084, right? So it's still super huge here. So right now total tooltip is something massive, right? And then the size becomes, yeah, so that's what this get tree process frame is supposed to do, right? And then tooltip spot container. Huh. So why does that work and not for the individual tooltips? Hold on, let me get rid of these breakpoints. There's something I'm not understanding here, right? Oh, unless this is just really huge and it just happens to be centered correctly. Is that what's going on? And this is just not. Oh, wait, this works here, though. Oh, is my hitbox just messed up? So this is... So this is hovering over the end. So the collision shape is also kind of doing some weird stuff there. Okay, so this is... This collision shape, where is it set to? I should turn collision shapes on. Okay, so am I setting it to the whole thing? Hold on. So this is okay. Oh, the collision shape. Okay, so I've got it set to the whole thing, including the tooltip box. So that is the logic is interfering with each other. Okay, so why don't we change the collision shape so that it doesn't cover the, well, the status, right? So we need to, okay, let's fix that. That's probably messing some stuff up also. All right, so we need to make sure the collision shapes don't overlap. So that's, we're doing this, right? So here, collision shape.shapes.extents. So why are you, so we don't want to add this 70, is that? Because I added the 70 before because I was doing some stuff with the intent display, right? And then the, so how big is this? This is the 64. And then this status handler is, so the height's going to be 40, I guess, once it's actually, this is 30. Okay, so there, yeah, so I need to get rid of the 70, I guess. Okay, that's probably what I did with that. Okay, so let's not put that there. Okay. So let's see if that works better. So I probably need to get rid of those breakpoints if they're still there, right? Okay. So that's probably messing up the processing too when I was, yeah, overlapping the collision boxes. All right. Okay, so now we're the enemy is just this, right? So we're not going to overlap with the status. So okay. Yeah, this is more like it, right? Uh-oh. That's not good. So something's still going on with this, right? So basically, when I did this status and then I did this, it didn't do the. Okay, so I need to make the box smaller before I show it, right? After we entered this thing. So okay, are we doing that? We are though, right? So how did this not take? Do we need to wait for more processing first, or like process frame? So let's see exactly what's going on here. Okay, so if I do the individual status, no, it's messed up. No, but that was already after I accidentally hovered the enemy, right? I mean, I could have other stuff interfering with. Okay, so I do this, right? Okay, so right now, so that looks fine, right? This doesn't. Okay, these are controls that you just mouse over. They're a little bit different than the collision shape things, right? So I wonder if that could also be a problem. So does the collision shape on mouse over work differently than the control here for the, because I have a status UI. So this scene is, this is just control, right? And then I'm connecting the, and then this mouse thing is stop here, right? Is that? I should also make sure that some nearby elements aren't interfering with the mouse behavior also, is that? If I go here, okay, is this thing doing anything weird? Stats display, I guess. So is this? Well, that's set to ignore. What about the individual? What about this also? mouse. Oh, this is set to I wonder if that could be messing things up. Okay, maybe I'll set that to ignore. Go to the stats display, right? Where did I put that scene? Hold on. Where is this scene? Battle. What did I put? Okay, so I just here these things. Okay, that's set to ignore. Set to ignore. I could also put some debug statements too, just to. So what is this? Oh, this is Sprite 2D. So this doesn't have a mouse filter. Okay, so this. What about this? This is set to ignore. Okay, so that should be fine, right? So it doesn't always give the right size, right? Sometimes it. So there's definitely something I'm messing up in terms of I need to. There's probably a timing issue which I'm not addressing correctly, right? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Yeah. Okay, so how can I address this? I'm not actually sure. So why does this always work? Is it just because it's slower, or? And then to set the size to begin with, I'm kind of... What am I doing with this? If it's visible... So I'm putting it off the screen and then waiting for frame post draw up. Visible. Okay, so is it because I'm not... So I need to make it visible, right, before I... Otherwise this thing won't set the size correctly. What is... I'm not doing that here, though. So how did I... Update size. So when we're adding... Okay, so... So we're setting the title and description before we add it to the scene tree, right? So we should be... Yeah, so we're... Okay, so we're... So then this should happen here where... So this part's not working, maybe? So maybe I should put a... I mean, I don't remember exactly how this was supposed to work to begin with is the problem. It's been a while since I debugged this. Oops. I mean, well, we already know that the size stuff wasn't working, right? Because that was clearly, definitely the case. At least not when I thought it was supposed to, happen. So if I... This is kind of this thing, right? And then... So we're doing this sort of thing. So we set the size to 0, and then we set the text. We set... And then we're not visible, so we don't do that, right? But then when we do here, we should go into the ready function at some point, right? Yeah, so we do the update size. And then the... So it's the problem is we were never visible, so we never did this rendering the frame post draw. Is that? So this is just going to be way too big, right? So it's this thing right here, right? So why did I add this to begin with? So this was to account for relic tooltips not being visible when they are first instantiated and then added to the scene tree. Oh wait, no. So we were doing the show, and then okay. So we were moving it off the screen, and then letting the size calculate. Right. That's what's supposed to happen. Yeah. Just have to refresh my memory on this, boy. So what's happening now? Oh, I messed up the execution too much. Okay. So hold on. I need to get rid of these breakpoints, right? Oh, this is for the design time stuff. Okay. So I need to add the breakpoint after I start hovering, right? Alright, so here, let me add the breakpoint now. Oops. Then I hover. Okay, so here we're doing this, right? And then... No, so we never got into the... We never hit the function where we started. Because we were still visible from before, is that... Hold on. So here we never made it here, right? So we got here and then whoops. What's going on? So inside tree. Wait, we're not even inside the scene tree? Oh, okay, no, we don't get added to the scene tree until after. Okay. That's what's going on. Okay, so this part was for relics. Yeah, then... So this part... Okay, so this was supposed to update the size here, right? But this part didn't work. Okay, so this wasn't supposed to get hit. So we freed all those, right? And then we go here. And then here the size is messed up, right? Because... Well, here it's fine. It's just... Okay, so I need to... Maybe I just need to add some prints and then see what exactly the order of stuff is happening. Alright. So let's see. So here... Get rid of this. Right, and then... This is... So we're awaiting the post draw. So we're adding to the scene tree, but we were never visible, right? So we never... Is that what's happened? So we never updated the size correctly because we did here while we were still invisible? Yeah, okay, so... Okay, so this logic is not correct, right? So we need to address the size. We need to address the size before we show the thing, right? And, I mean, no. So we need to make it visible before we calculate the size. Before we try to calculate the size this way, right? So maybe we need to do this logic then. Before when we're updating the size. Although, will that result in some weird visual artifacts? Because will this actually help though? Because we've already been added to the box toolbox, right? So putting no, this might not help because we're still bound to the tooltip box. Is that? Let me see. Yeah, that doesn't help, right? I mean, it seemed to help a little bit, but it's kind of inconsistent, right? So we need to. Yeah, I'm not sure this is actually doing anything because we're not. Oh, this is kind of recursively calling itself to that. That's not good. Okay, so let's review what we're doing here. So for the set title, so for relics, we're moving the tooltip off the screen, and then we're calculating the size. We're moving it back on the screen, right? But for the status tooltips, we're adding it to the scene tree, like just kind of in. So inside the box, and then we're not doing the thing where we put it off the screen. So maybe that's not how we need to do this. So the tooltip box container is going to hold it in place, though, right? Is that? So why was it that we wanted to set the text before we added it to the scene tree? Like, was that because we just got weird? If I do this. So then it'll be in the scene tree, right? And then. So was there a reason I decided not to execute this logic, I guess? No, because this moves it off. Okay. Because the relic tooltips aren't in a tooltip box, right? That's what the difference is here, why I decided to. Okay, so let's, maybe what we need to do is just treat it like the relic tooltip and then just put it in the scene tree somewhere and then reparent it to the tooltip box container. Is that like just put it somewhere on the screen and then just. Yeah, so okay, so if we do that, where are we going to put it? Like just. Where's a good place that we can. So did I have somewhere where I just had stuff that was off the screen? Maybe I did. Here, current view. No, I didn't. So I could just put it, attach it to the enemy first and then just put it at some place off the screen, calculate it, and then before reparenting it to the tooltip box container, is that? So let's see. So if I do that, so then this, so then it'll be inside tree, right? And then we'll kind of do this thing, and then that'll get the height correct, and then we reparent it. So we'll need to reparent it here, right? So maybe just, this is a little bit of a hack, right? I don't know how it's normally done. Would that work? Okay, so yeah, no, it didn't work here, right? So the height is still getting calculated incorrectly. So maybe I just need to figure out some way of doing that, right? Okay, so this is, so maybe I need to put another breakpoint here, right? So this is kind of just to make sure this is getting hit. So it's not hitting that, right? It's just, so I need to make it not visible, right? But you can't set it visible or not until it's inside the tree, right? Is that? Or you can't change the visibility. Well, I could do that here, I guess. I mean, this is sort of, yeah, we're kind of doing hack upon hack here. You know. Okay, so that does work, right? But then this height's still not always being calculated correctly. So what event do I need to wait for, I guess, is... Because I thought this worked when I did it for this, right? But is it that, maybe that was just a coincidence because it slowed it down because it was a timing issue. Because maybe my logic's just not correct to begin with, and it's just a coincidence that it was working for this, you know, this slower function, or that's doing less. Maybe because the collision shape thing is slower than the controls, right? So, So what events am I currently waiting for? So I'm waiting for frame post draw. Is there something I need to wait for besides that, I guess? Process frame. False. So this... Oh, I need to make it visible again after I do. if I'm going to do this hack, right? Maybe I should. No, but that's not going to help if the height isn't being calculated correctly to begin with, right? Yeah, something's getting messed up. Let me get rid of those collision shapes. Hold on. So what's the behavior now? So there's something I'm not understanding about how the controls are, the rendering sequence, right? Well, now they're not even. It's not even showing the boxes. Huh. So here, when I tried to do this hack, so I'm mixing the logic with. And then redo this, right? But so this thing is invisible here at this point. So I wonder if. So when we add this to the invisible TooltipBox container, does that mess that up? So let's see. Maybe I should make those print statements different so that they're not showing the same thing. And now it's like even messing up the display, right? There's this. Oh, am I running into too many of these? These timer events? Hold on. So this is where we. Yeah, so we're starting the timer but not stopping it, right? So something went wrong there. Okay, so that's the problem. Oh no, I just don't have a print statement here. That's probably. Okay, so our tooltip box just not showing and it's not in the right place, right? Hold on. So maybe I need to put those things in. Where even am I putting this thing now? Negative 64, negative 64. And then the height is something really big. So why is it just invisible though? Why is it not printing the... What? I need to distinguish between these statements. I need to keep an eye on my... So this thing is just not... Why is the thing not showing up at least? What's going on here? So here... Why is I... Wait, what is this even? So I've got two separate aliases, okay. So that's just, okay, that doesn't matter though. So why did this not... I mean, is there just nothing inside it, or? I mean, maybe this hack messes up the positioning of... Let's print this out here. Hold on. If I do this, okay, so here... The position is 0, 0. That should be fine. So why is this not showing? What? I mean, it's at a position where I think it should be showing, but it's not. Huh. So why is... So why does this work and then not this? I mean, we should be moving it to the... Hold on. Okay. I put this here. So the position is negative 130, 1/3, negative 130. The tooltip box position is... Well, 0, 0 for the second one, right? Because now, okay, so for this one I'm doing the loop, so it's... hold on, for this one. Zero, 0 for the second one. So maybe that position doesn't mean anything if it's inside the VBox container. But then for here, it doesn't... So even when it gets the height right, it's not... So this hack kind of messed things up here, right? The thing where I tried to do to do this thing. Where I tried to change the parenter. Do I need to wait for... If I'm going to add the child, do I need to wait for some event? There was an event there where you have to... wait for the scene tree to be updated or something. There was something like that, right? If I... Await get tree.process frame. Okay, so maybe we have to do that too. Just testing out various hacks here. No, that still doesn't work, right? It's showing it in the wrong place also, even when it's flickering. Huh. what am I doing with this timer? So I'm just hiding the thing, right? So is this what the heck? What is going on here? Oh, I have to do this thing too. Maybe that's... What happens if I do that? Okay, so that is showing the design time tooltip there too. So something weird's going on. Curl up. So now it's just showing the design time tooltip. So I just put too many hacks in here, right? Let me, Okay, well, let's get rid of some of these hacks and then see like what. So what happens if I just wait for ready after this? Is this thing null also? Okay, so now it's not even... So this works, but it just doesn't work if I... Am I bubbling up the signal wrong? But this can't be null here, right? Is this... So what happens if I start with this? No. Why is the behavior so much different? I mean, the only difference is that we're not looping through this, right? Assuming we're bubbling up the signal correctly, which maybe we're not. Add this. So after we freed all those, I mean, and then this thing isn't in the above code, which is working like for the. It's just that for some reason up here this works and this doesn't here. Something weird's going on. Then here we. So why does that change so much when I... So something to do with how I'm calculating the positioning of... Like just... There's something I'm not understanding here, like about what's going on. I mean, is it really just a timing issue, or is it something... I mean, so why does this stuff tend to affect the behavior so much also? I don't... Because here at least we're actually showing the thing, right? It's just not... So we're not going to execute this, right, for... Because we're not inside the tree. Oh, do we need to make the... So what exactly is my tooltip box comprised of? Where did I even put my tooltip box? Tooltips. Okay, here. So we've got a background. So is it... So is it just one of the elements that's being too big and that's stretching the whole thing, or... So what is going on here? So the background is a 9-patch-rect. That's definitely way too big, right? And that got stretched because we have logic to set the size equal to the size of the tooltip height, and then this is becoming too big, right? So is there some way I can just avoid this sort of thing when the label isn't visible? Is that size? So what's supposed to happen is that
is that after it gets added to the scene tree, it's supposed to at least fix the size, right? Like, but it's not. Let me put a print here. Uh, hmm. Let's put a statement here. Okay, so what exactly is going on here? Alright, so what does that look like? So we're adding the child, right, here. So the here, TooltipBox. So that's still fine here, right? And then when we do the update size, TooltipBox. Wait, so we're adding it to the scene tree. So what's going on after that? Where am I getting these messages from? So this is the update. No, this update size isn't. What? So the order I'm expecting the events is a bit different than what I thought, right? So we set title and description. Hold on. Where am I getting? Why is this happening in this order? What? Total tooltip box. Total tooltip. What? Okay, so the things are happening in a different order than what I was expecting, right? Because tooltip height. Oh, so that's this right here. Okay, that's just. Let me make that more clear. Right. So. Okay, so the order is, okay, so we're adding it to the scene tree. The height is fine there, right? And then it's fine here. But then the update size happens. And then the height gets messed up. So when the ready function of the tooltip box happens, we're doing this update size, and then for some reason this height, it becomes super huge. Why is that? Label. Okay, so let's print out the individual size of those. What's going on here? Hold on, no, that's not the print statement. So by the time we do this, it's messed up, right? So something messed it up between, so before we called update size, something messed up the height. Okay. Yeah, so both the title label and the description label are way too big, right? So how did that get messed up? Text. Are they? Oh, because their height is getting set when they're added to the VBox container, right? So we need to set the size to 0 then before we do that. Is that the problem? Can you even do that for? Do these even have size property? Yeah. Okay, they're controls, right? No, that's still not right, right? Because you're not allowed to just set the size like of labels like this, right? Are you? I guess does that even do anything? Do these? Yeah. Is this an assignable property? I guess is. Oh, does it? No. Okay. That's. It's not. Yeah, because there's some timing thing going on which I'm not accounting for properly. Hold on. Okay, so here, so the size gets printed as 0, right? But maybe that's not actually accurate. Is that? Then at some point, the size just gets messed up, right? So when we add it to the scene tree, we. Why does this update size cause it to be so big? So what are we doing here? But no, it's messed up before we call this. Is our minimum size getting messed up? No. So when does the size get messed up? Going into there. Because these strings should be fine, right? It's just... What the hell? But then we don't even show, right? Maybe I should put another... Oh, hold on. Is it the... Okay, so after the frame post draw, the size is messed up, right? Why does the size get messed up that bad after we set the text? Is it because the custom minimum size is set wrong? Shoot. No, it's the labels and the individual labels custom minimum sizes. No, these already don't have custom minimum size set, right? So the labels are expanding to fit the VBox container. Is that what's going on? So there's, okay, how do we, there's a property that says something like shrink or expand or container sizing. Is that what the problem is? So the vertical, yeah, we don't want to be doing this, right? Is this the problem? Ah, no, that wasn't. So it's just some timing issue, right? Something weird's going on. So for some reason, okay, so after the frame rendering server.frame post draw, the size of the labels are get messed up, right? Because I mean, why should they be this big? Is it because they're inside oh, this thing needs to also like that, right? Is that this is no, that's I still didn't fix it right. Yeah, I need to look into what those flags actually do also. So why are the labels becoming that big? Center. So what kinds of things even have container properties also? Rich text label sizes asynchronously. Well, this evaluates at the end of the drawing size. Since size recalculations need to propagate through the scene tree, waiting for the next. You need to yield or wait a frame. Size. So after we set the text, but okay, so here it's not visible yet, right? So we need to. So when it gets added to the scene tree and becomes visible, is that? But we're doing that here, right? What if we do this here? Well, no, because it's... Huh. There is some way to resize the labels while it's invisible, though, right? It works for up here. Is it just... Really just... So what if we were to do this after the show? Well, the problem is then by then the container's already been expanded too much, right? Is that... Okay, so this results in some visual glitching. Okay, so that is a problem though. So we're not resizing the label. Okay. So maybe we just need to move it off screen and then... I mean, that's better, right? But we're just... Okay, so we need to wait for process frame after we make it visible. That's kind of the problem, right? And then if we don't update the size, so okay, so after it becomes visible, we need to process frame and update the size, right, of the... Yeah, because if we... Okay, so it has to be both. So it's not enough to update the size before we show it. Like we actually have to... And then so it's probably just a timing thing that it works for the other case, right, where we're showing the whole tooltip. It's just like... Okay, that's kind of weird though. Is that... I mean, because we're doing it in the same order up there, but it just works because the timing is that... Weird. Okay, but we can't do the size updating while it's on the screen because then you get that weird glitch, right? So we have to... So maybe we need to change this to kind of move it off the screen, do this sort of thing, right? No, but the container won't get moved off the screen though, so we need to... yuck. Okay. So maybe we need to just move this... okay, so if I comment this out, we just need to move the tooltip box off the screen, right? Before moving into the final position, and then... It's a little bit janky, right? But... I mean, I'm not even sure if this thing's even doing anything. Okay, so we need to. So let's save that as a variable then. I guess we'll just. For TooltipBox container final x. Well, position int equals. Yeah, just do that, and then we'll, instead of setting the position here, we'll just save that there, right? Equals s. And then we'll do the same thing here. So we'll move it off the screen. We wait for rendering post draw, and then excuse me, we wait for a process frame and then move it back on the screen. Is that? Yeah, I guess we do that. Okay. So what does this rendering server frame post draw even do then? It might not be doing what I thought it was doing. Hold on. Frame post draw. Am I even spelling it right? What does this even do? You made it at the end of the frames rendering cycle after. Oh. So what's the difference between that and process frame? Scene tree. So the one's for the scene tree, one's for the rendering server. Frame GPU. So this is only for visuals to the GPU. Best for cat. So this might not even be doing anything for my purposes then. All right, well. So let's move that equals dot. Oh, need to move that here, right? Equals. Just gonna do that. Wait, and then we move it back to the. Something like that. What is this complaining about? This is, it needs to be a float. Okay. So is that going to fix our thing? Yeah. Okay. So we need to wait for. Okay. Yeah, that's more what we wanted, right? And then. Oh, so this isn't working right though. It's not. So when we're going from here to the. We're not switching either when we go from. So something's wrong with our logic there still. Okay, but at least we're making some progress, right? Okay. Well, let's get rid of some of these comments. So now we're worried about our timers, right? And then what we're doing with the status. So we need to, okay, even if it's already visible, then right, we need to, no, so we need to make the thing not visible if we, so we need to refresh the TooltipBox container if we go from one tooltip to the other, even if it's already visible, right? So that's probably what the problem is. So maybe, I mean, do we even need this conditional? So what if we get rid of this? Okay, so that, yeah, that kind of switches a tooltip at least, right? Yeah. Okay, so that condition is not necessary because I just had it there because, you know, it was fine when we only had one way of showing tooltips, but now that we've got, you know, the individual tooltips and the all tooltip modes, right, then we can't have that anymore. Okay, so let's do this. So this thing needed to be like over here. We just didn't know, right? And that part was just kind of working just because coincidence, right? Just due to the timing issue. So maybe we need to fix that too. Just kind of do this sort of thing. Just kind of have that there. So now our logic is kind of more not timing dependent. I didn't even know it was before, right? We just threw some code together and it just happened to work just because of the timing probably. It just happened to work out. Okay, so let's kind of do the same thing here, right? Just kind of, I mean, we can even copy the whole block, right? Because we just copied this whole thing from here to begin with. What did I just copy? Hold on, let me. Okay, so we do that, right? So now our tooltip should hopefully be working more than unlike how they were before. Yeah, so this is more what we want, right? So we're not, okay, apparently we didn't even know how, you know, bad our code was before because it just happened to work for the way we had it just, yeah. But yeah, now it actually works, right? Because we saw that it didn't work and now it actually worked. Okay. Stupid thing that, I mean, accidentally worked just because the timing happened to work out, all right? So let's get rid of this stuff. So yeah, we'll need to clean this up, right, at some point, but I'm not even sure this rendering frame post draw is even doing anything for us, right? I mean, what happens if I take those out? Does it still work? Does it still work? No. Okay, so we do need those. Okay, those things are still necessary. All right. So it was doing something, right? Okay, it just... let's see. So this is for the relics. This is for when it enters the scene tree, right? And then... Oh, maybe I don't need these, right? This is some things I added just... While I was debugging, right? Those didn't turn out to do anything. Yeah, I'll probably have to go over this code again because apparently it wasn't working as robustly as I thought it was, right? All right, so now, okay, so now our thing is working correctly, right? Okay, and then here, yeah. Oh, I probably don't need to put those comments. Also, get rid of that. So I'll have to clean up this eventually, right? But now we've got our tooltip working, right? And boy, this, yeah, was pretty fail. But yeah, we do finally get to where we wanted to be. So next time we need to port them to the player, right? Like this episode went super long because I just spent the whole time failing. But now we're kind of, yeah, finally. Okay, so yeah, this will be a super fail video I'll upload to YouTube in case anyone just wants to watch a super long fail. Yeah, but yeah. Okay, until next time.